The resistance to President Trump had its biggest victory yet at 1:29 a.m. when John McCain walked onto the Senate floor and said one word: no.
Sorry, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Peters.
No.
Mr. Portman. Mr. Reed.
I have never heard senators gasp and applaud with so much surprise when the senator cast a vote. You could hear how surprised the Democrats were when John McCain voted with them to kill the Trump-McConnell health care bill in the Senate. But there was no surprise on the Republican side, none. They all knew that this vote was coming. Everyone had every right to believe that this vote was coming after John McCain's speech in the Senate on Tuesday, which seemed to indicate that he was opposed to any version of a health care bill that was not produced through what he called regular order of the Senate. In other words, through committee hearings and bipartisan input in committees and on the floor of the Senate. Democrats interrupted that McCain speech on Tuesday on the Senate floor with applause. Republicans did not, because they knew what that speech meant. It meant McCain would vote no on what Majority Leader McConnell was trying to do. But then he confused most observers outside of the Senate. He voted yes on the motion to proceed to the debate. And so John McCain was then immediately accused of voting to take health care away from millions of people. But that's not what happened. John McCain was following an old tradition of the Senate in which no one used to oppose the beginning of simply having a debate. And as I said at the time, it still appeared that John McCain was going to vote with the Republicans on the procedural votes. But the real test would be how he voted on the actual legislation that Mitch McConnell presented. So John McCain voted yes on 2 procedural votes and then no on both of the legislative votes that Mitch McConnell brought to the Senate. After John McCain's dramatic moment on the Senate floor, Twitter was instantly filled with the phrase "profile and courage" for John McCain. And that's the way it always is in the Senate on close votes. That senator who casts that last vote that decides the issue gets the glory. Just as the player who scored the winning touchdown gets the glory, no matter how many touchdowns were scored before that. John McCain's vote would have been meaningless if Republican Senators Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski were not consistently strong and unwavering in their opposition to the Republican legislation. Twitter caught up with that fact quickly, and the profiles and courage were extended to include Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski. But many, many more people showed more courage in the resistance to the Republican plans to take health coverage away from millions of people. The senators who voted against the McConnell plan were simply doing their jobs, voting against something they believed would be bad for their states and bad for the country. But that is the way they should have voted. They know that. But how would they have voted? How would those senators have voted if the resistance had not taken to the streets starting the day after Donald Trump's inauguration? What did Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski think when they saw the unprecedented, historic scale of the opposition to this newly inaugurated president, not just in the United States that day, but around the world? What did they think when they saw people on television at town halls around the country held by Republican members of the House of Representatives when they were trying to pass a bill? The resistance rising up at Republican town halls made every Republican senator take a closer look at this legislation. Senators always want to find a way to vote with their party. It is democracy's job, the people's job, to show them the way to vote against their party. The resistance showed Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, and finally John McCain, the way. These people showed those senators the way. These are the real profiles and courage. These are the real winners of the legislative battle that came to an end in the Senate. The Senate had never seen anything like this before. People in wheelchairs being arrested at the Majority Leader's office. Those people being arrested were not doing their jobs. They were not being paid to get arrested. They were taking chances with their lives. They were taking risks, all to help 23 million people hold on to their health coverage. And they won. And they are the profiles and courage that America should be honoring tonight for what they did to remind the Congress day in and day out all year that this is a government of the people, by the people, for the people.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.